Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'm working on my second tarot card. In fact, I am finishing it. I started this one first and I took a lot longer to complete it than I thought I would because I keep making a specific mistake. So I want to talk a bit about some of the errors that I've been having and some of the things that have helped me work around that, things that I just need to be more aware of and to pay attention more. And hopefully some of these things will help you, or at least be somewhat entertaining as we talk about oil painting a bit. But the big thing which is a huge part of oil painting, but the big thing that I've been struggling with is I have not been mixing the right paints. I have not been mixing the right colors. And I have a very impatient process with oil painting and art in general. I think that's a carryover from watercolors where I could just jump in with a very light wash with watercolors and then tweak it as I layer it. But with oils, I'm painting in a direct method, meaning that the paint that I put down is intended to be the color that is the final result. It's not a process of glazing so that each layer tweaks the color a little bit. So I have a work process that is a little bit different. It's a little bit more impatient and I can just quickly jump in and then make fixes and tweaks. With my oils, I have a habit of mixing the color that's not quite right and not taking enough time to make sure that it is. And then I start painting and then I realize it's wrong and I have to wait for it to dry before I can repaint it. And then I do have to repaint it. So there's a lot of wasted time, wasted paint, and I would like to be more efficient. So the first tip is to start with a really solid color comp. I like to do mine digitally for my oil paints. I don't do it for other mediums because the final result can be so different from the colors that are represented digitally. But with oil paints, the saturation and the value, they can actually match digital colors really well. I just make sure to take into account that I can't go too overly saturated. And I can get a really close match to what I can create with my oil paints. So when I spend more time figuring out the colors specifically, where the light source is, where the shadows will be, how the highlights will happen, that makes the whole painting much more efficient, much faster. And it means that when I'm mixing colors, I can match them correctly to this grand scheme that I've already figured out, which is incredibly helpful, especially when I'm working on just white panels like I am now, because when you put the color right on white, it skews the way that you're looking at that color and that value. But if I have a reference that is correct, I can match it to that instead of trying to match it on the palette. Now, this is where I make mistakes, and the mistake really is that I start off with a good, solid color comp, but I am not giving myself enough time to correctly mix the color and to correctly identify whether it's the right color or not, or the right value, which is something that I keep making that mistake. I'll mix something that looks good and it looks close, and then I'll put it on my palette and then it'll be wrong and I have to wait for it to dry before I can do another layer to fix it. I did that a lot with this piece. I painted the value of her clothes wrong, and in the end it actually ended up sticking as a darker value than what I had in the color comp. I also had the color temperature of that dark gray incorrect in my oil painting than what I planned. And I spent time planning those colors, so there's a reason that I picked those, and I want to adhere closer to the plans that I have. I do really enjoy tweaking things as I'm working on the actual traditional painted piece and letting it have a life of its own. But there are a lot of larger sections that I'm not making specific decisions on. I'm just not matching it correctly. Oh, and I did want to mention the full card print is actually going to be the March Patreon print of the month. So if you'd like to get an exclusive print of the full, make sure to sign up for the print tier over on Patreon by the end of the last day of March. And you also get the stickers from the sticker pack tier, which is the tier below it. And I'll have a link down in the description that'll take you over there if you'd like to check it out. Check out my Patreon, see what's over there. But yeah, let's get back to painting. Which brings me a little bit over to, I need to use a consistent color comp source too, since I'm doing it digitally. This isn't ideal. I'll say that. Using a screen to color comp, it can add some difficulties to it. But I really ran into difficulties when I was working on this because I had my color comp up on my computer screen at one point, and I later worked on it with my iPad, and my iPad presented the colors differently and not uniformly different either. So I looked at it on my iPad later and I realized everything was wrong and not right. So I repainted them, and then the next painting session, I opened it up on my computer and I saw that it was originally correct. I just used the wrong one. So I just need to also use a consistent color comp source so that I am not realizing halfway through that I'm incorrectly matching things. The next problem that I tend to have is when I'm painting gradients, which I love painting. I'm not very good at getting really smooth blends. That is a skill that I would like to develop. But the issue that I am first off running into is that I have a habit of getting really ahead of myself. I just want to start laying down paint, and I don't mix enough steps in the gradient to be able to really facilitate a smooth blend. I tend to do less steps and then try to blend them on the palette, which is a lot more difficult to get a really smooth blend. And it means that there's more thought that I have to put in while I'm painting rather than while I'm mixing and preparing the paints, which I would prefer to put all of that thought there, and then I can just make it happen on my painting. So with this piece, the background has a blend from this dark blue color down to that peachy color because it's a sunrise. I did not have enough on my palette so that when I first painted this, it was a lot rougher of a blend. And the second pass was just a bit better. And in general, that's just a skill that I need to practice more, but it did go a lot better. It was a lot smoother when I had more delineations, more steps within that so that I don't have to work as hard to blend it on the actual painting. So you don't see as much turmoil on the actual painting. And the final thing, I think, as far as puzzle pieces for getting better at mixing colors, for understanding how to get the correct thing on the first try, is understanding your pigments better. I am slowly getting to know these paints better each time I work with them. I have a little chart that I have right next to me when I'm mixing colors that have a little swatch of the mass tone, is what it's called, of the paint, and then a little bit of white mixed in so I can see how it tints. And that just helps me know what colors are more transparent, which ones are cooler or warmer, and it allows me to be able to much easier pick colors that are going to blend together better. And that will allow me to color match better to my color comp rather than mixing the completely wrong blue with the wrong red, and then it becomes really muddy. I am still on a journey with this. There's a lot of my paints that I haven't touched for a long time because I don't understand them well. And there's other blues or reds or whatever, other pigments that I've used more so I understand how they mix better. But the more that I paint with them, the more I know how they do mix, what they mix well with. That will allow me to be able to get the color correct without having to scrap paint that's just not coming together correctly. That is one of the most frustrating things with oil painting for me. I hate mixing the wrong color and knowing it's wrong, and then I have to scrape it up and just start over. And I'm excited to learn more about my paints. I've been really doing more trial and error as far as mixing them together to see what effects they have and little tests. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the full range that oils have to provide, because they do have such a luscious variety of colors and saturations and transparencies and opacities, and I love them for that reason. So the more I understand them, the better I can use them when I'm mixing my colors to get what I want, to get the correct result. And that's it for today. I can't wait to finish the other oil painting of the next tarot card that I have started. But I'm really feeling like working on a watercolor painting. So the next video will probably be a watercolor painting where I can get back to my roots a bit and do something nice and quick and light. But yeah, as I said earlier, the full card is going to be the print of March over on Patreon. So if you'd like to get that, sign up for the print tier by, I think it's March 31st. Make sure to sign up by then. Over on Patreon, you'll get this print, which is exclusively available this month to my patrons, and the sticker pack tier from March. You'll also get those stickers as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for all my patrons. You guys are absolutely incredible. You help me to be able to create more artwork like this. And that's it. So I'll see you guys next time.